This drawing is actually an illustration of an event that did occur in the 1800s where two drunk guys in England, it always starts that way, doesn't it? Two drunk guys in England staggering home from the bar. One of them's named Rise and one of them's named Llewellyn. One of the best metaphysical book publishing companies out there is Llewellyn, and their name is based on this story, which was documented and eyewitnessed. Rise and Llewellyn walk home from the bar, and Rise hears music and says, I want to find out what this music is, and Llewellyn doesn't go with him, but they see this crop circle off in the distance. Rise goes towards the crop circle, Llewellyn staggers home drunk, and then Rise never comes home. So time goes on and a murder investigation gets started. The next thing you know, Llewellyn's in jail because people saw them leave together at the bar. Llewellyn comes home, Rise never comes home, his wife is freaking out, and they think, okay, he killed him and took his money or something. Llewellyn's in jail, and then one of the, an expert on medieval science says, okay, you said that you saw a ring, right? And you said that you heard music. Yes. Well, that sounds a lot like the medieval legend of the fairy rings. Let's go back there and check it out. So eventually the police go back to this fairy ring, they find it, and when Llewellyn goes inside, he actually pops into the same parallel reality and sees Rise dancing around with these little people. That's what this drawing is based on. And then as the police touched Llewellyn, who you're seeing here, the police also saw this sighting. Now, he's dancing around, having a great time, playing music, jamming out, but they didn't realize that the people inside were on a different time frame. So when Rise gets pulled out, he said, wait a minute, I've only been in there for a few minutes. It had actually been 3 weeks. Rise becomes sick. He's terrified of what happened. He doesn't understand how it could have been so short for him and 3 weeks for everybody else. And he ultimately died within just a few weeks because he was so freaked out by this. So this is an example of a modern day, this was in the 1800s, documented by multiple eyewitnesses, modern day report of how this science works. Now, there's a constant fluid-like exchange between the two. As I said before, Einstein's conventional model of physics is that space-time is a fabric. And remember, as you're moving through space, just as I wobble back and forth here, I'm allegedly time traveling in Einstein's model. But it's not really a fabric. As I said, gravity is not going to only go towards the south pole of a planet. It's moving in equally from all directions. The way to fix this mistake is you have to make space-time a three-dimensional entity. You cannot define time as only one-dimensional because if time is all over this, then this is a three-dimensional area that's moving into the planet. Therefore, time has to be three-dimensional. It has to. You can't make time one-dimensional. It doesn't make any sense. With the wormhole, you now have an ability to access this parallel reality that's constantly interchanging with our own reality. So in Larson's model, let's say that all you really have, space itself is basically just defined by this energy in a sort of fixed state. So let's say this cube represents space, and then let's say this is like an hourglass, and the cube is shrinking as the energy pours through the hole, and then this one, of course, is growing. That flow is what we call time. This would be one form of reality, and then this would be another form of reality. And what we now learn is that atoms are constantly doing this. Atoms are constantly pouring in and out from one reality to another. And that is the key of how to do time travel, as you're going to see in this episode. So let's talk a little more about the nature of space-time. In the conventional model, we have 4 dimensions. And now with Kaluza-Klein electromagnetic theory, they had to add 5 in order to make electromagnetics work. But basic Einstein model says, there's 4 dimensions in the universe. That's not really true. But in Larson's model, he says that you have these 2 parallel realities that don't really exist. There's only 3 real dimensions, and they're juggling back and forth as they go. But in our reality, there appear to be 3 dimensions of space, and time appears to move forward in a straight line like a river. So you can move around in space, but you're basically stuck in time. There's a constant flow, however, going through this parallel reality. Now in time-space, we have what appears to be 3 dimensions of time to us in our reality, meaning that when we go over there and we move around, as we move from place to place, we are literally moving in time. Now, it's a very big consciousness shift to imagine that time and space are exactly the same stuff. But remember, if it's an energy, and space is simply the energy sitting there, and time is the energy in motion, remember back to that episode where I talked about George Van Tassel and the ET contacts that he had that were vetted out by W.B. Smith? And the ETs told George Van Tassel that the only reason why we experience time on Earth is that the Earth is moving through the universe. Time itself can never actually move. It's only our apparent movement through the reference frame of what appears to be space and different locations, which isn't even really there. That's why time appears to be flowing. Okay, so when you go over there, you're in a parallel reality. It's made of the same atoms that we have, except that now in this parallel reality, the atoms are inside out. They're still there, and it's all the same stuff. You could look around the room and it's going to look the same, except that you could never normally access this unless you had the secret of how to pop over into this parallel universe. Once you get there, it's still going to look like space, except that you're actually moving around in what to us in our reality is now time. Because remember, these two dimensions don't really exist. Our reality, our dimension, and this parallel dimension, or dimensions if you will, they don't really exist. There's only three real dimensions that are without space and without time. So the center of the universe is everywhere. And that's ultimately one of the keys to teleportation, is that information is all that there really is in atoms and molecules of any object. And information can be located anywhere in the universe instantly. You can relocate information instantly in the universe. So we're moving around in time, but it appears to us now that it's just another room like the one we were in. We do use this all the time. The universe built this for a reason. This is where you have dreams, astral projections, and of course you can easily see into the future in this reality. You can anticipate what's going to be happening in our reality very nicely when you travel out there. Distance that you travel in this parallel reality equals time travel for us. That's another really interesting concept. The distance that you travel over there, you're actually moving through time. So the entry and exit points become very important for that reason. The entry and exit points that you go through actually determine where you're going to end up.